Office. I currently serve as the Assistant Chief Deputy Coroner, overseeing the day-to-day operations of the Coroner Division. First off, I would like to extend the condolences of the Sheriff's Office to the Williams family before we begin. I have a prepared statement, and I ask that you will hold your questions until the end of our statement. My last name is spelled B-O-Y-D. On August 11, 2014, at approximately 11:55 a.m., Marin County Communications received a 911 telephone call reporting that a male adult had been located unconscious and not breathing inside his residence located at 95 St. Thomas Way in unincorporated Tiburon, California. The caller was distraught and indicated at that time that was an apparent suicide due to a hanging had taken place and that rigamortis had set in. The Sheriff's Office, as well as representatives of the Tiburon Fire Department and Southern Marin Fire Protection District, were dispatched to the incident with emergency personnel arriving on scene at 12 p.m. The male subject, who was pronounced deceased by firefighters from the Tiburon Fire Department at 12:02 p.m., has been identified as Robin McLaurin Williams, a 63-year-old resident of unincorporated Tiburon, California. Preliminary information developed during the investigation by Coroner Division personnel has revealed Mr. Williams had been seeking treatment for depression. Mr. Williams was last seen alive by his wife at approximately 10:30 p.m. on August 10, 2014, when she retired for the evening in a room in the home. It is unknown at this time when Mr. Williams retired for the evening in a bedroom in his home. At approximately 10:30 a.m. on August 11, 2014, Mr. Williams' wife left the home, believing Mr. Williams to still be asleep. Mr. Williams' personal assistant became concerned at approximately 11:45 a.m. when he failed to respond to knocks on his bedroom door. At that time, the personal assistant was able to gain access to Mr. Williams' bedroom and entered the bedroom to find Mr. Williams clothed in a seated position, unresponsive, with a belt secured around his neck, with the other end of the belt wedged between the closed closet door and the door frame. His right shoulder area was touching the door, with his body perpendicular to the door and slightly suspended. Mr. Williams, at that time, was cool to the touch, with rigor mortis present in his body and liver mortis positioned appropriately for the position he was located in. The inside of Mr. Williams' left wrist had several acute superficial transverse cuts. A pocket knife with a closed blade was located in close proximity to Mr. Williams. The pocket knife was examined and a dry red material was located on the blade of the knife, which appeared consistent to dried blood. It is unknown at this time if the dried red material is in fact blood or if it is Mr. Williams' blood, but scientific testing will be conducted to evaluate its investigative value. Mr. Williams was transported from the scene to the Napa County Sheriff's Office morgue by the Coroner Division pending a forensic examination, which was conducted this morning prior to this press conference. The forensic examination, conducted by Dr. Joseph Cohen, who is the Sheriff's Office for Marin County's Chief Forensic Pathologist, did not reveal any injuries indicating Mr. Williams had been in a struggle or a physical altercation prior to him being located deceased. The preliminary, and I again say preliminary, results of the forensic examination revealed supporting physical signs that Mr. Williams' life ended from asphyxia due to hanging. Toxicology testing will be conducted to determine if Mr. Williams had any chemical substances in his system at the time of his death. Toxicology results will not be available for approximately 2 to 6 weeks while the testing is being performed. Please note that this is an active investigation into the cause, manner, and circumstances of Mr. Williams' death. The work of the coroner's office is not complete at this time. The final cause and manner of death will not be certified until the conclusion of the investigation, which is several weeks away. When the investigation is concluded and our final results are ready for dissemination, a press conference will be scheduled at that time. Additionally, I have received numerous requests for copies of 911 and dispatch recordings as well as investigative reports. Please note each request will be handled in accordance with Public Record Act guidelines with responses provided to those who have submitted them within 10 days. Media inquiries should be continued to be directed to me, Lieutenant Keith Boyd, via my email at kboyd, which is spelled K-B-O-Y-D, at marinsheriff.org, MARINSHERIFF.org. I will respond to these inquiries, time permitting, as I receive them. Please keep in mind at this time the Coroner's Division is also investigating active cases from other residents of this community, so I will respond to your inquiries, time permitting. Okay, that concludes my written statement at this time, and I will open up to take a few questions, understanding that this is an active investigation and there is some information that will be withheld until the final press conference in several weeks.
Were there any signs there was rigamortis that set in? Does that give you more of an idea of the timeline of when this incident may have taken place?
Rigamortis is a sign that will be evaluated in conjunction with the livor mortis lividity to try to correlate the time period that the death may have occurred. Understanding that there is no perfect environment when you're talking about scientific studies in lividity and rigor mortis, so we will use known facts to kind of try to surmise when the death may have occurred.
Was there any indication he left a note there?
We're not discussing the note or a note at this point, as the investigation is ongoing, and that information will be discussed at a future time, including press conference.
Lieutenant, were there any signs within the home of drug or alcohol use?
The investigation is ongoing. Toxicology testing will be conducted to determine if any chemical substances were in Mr. Williams' system at the time of his death, and at that time we'll have a determination as to whether or not there were any signs that he may have been under the influence or incapacitated by any other
They were
substance.
not in the initial toxicology.
He was slightly suspended in a seated position. A copy of this transcript of this statement will be posted on the Sheriff's Office press page at the conclusion of this press conference, so that way you have a copy of it. Lividity is the pooling of human blood due to gravity. So when you pass, your blood is no longer flowing through your remains. What happens is it stops flowing and it starts to pool due to gravity and settle. There are signs and studies that indicate after a certain period of time when that settling is locked in. During early stages, lividity can be adjusted if remains are removed or not removed. The lividity of Mr. Williams was consistent to the position he was found in.
Was this his first suicide?
We're not going into that part of the investigation. What I will say is that she retired to bed. Mr. Williams' wife retired prior to Mr. Williams into a room in the home. It is not known exactly at this time when Mr. Williams retired for the evening, but he went to a different room of the home.
Was this his first attempt at suicide?
Had been treated for depression. Can you say whether you learned that there was anything else more immediate in his life in the last 2 days?
What I will say is he's been treated for depression. Outside of that at this time, we have some concerns about HIPAA protections, so we're a little slightly prohibited in getting into future aspects until the investigation progresses a little further. I had a question over here first.
Was this his first attempt at suicide?
We're not releasing any information to that effect as the investigation is ongoing. We still have people we want to speak with, and so there is some information we are going to withhold.
And
There's somebody over here, a male. Yes, ma'am.
What other information about his health did you glean from your investigation and your examination?
With what respect, you mean?
With his prior health before the suicide?
Any other findings from the forensic examination specific to his health will be addressed at the future autopsy. Future press conference.
Heart issues?
That will all come to light at the future press conference. This time, it's not a factor of what we're going to discuss. It's relevant to what we're finding for today. What I said was he was clothed. I didn't say fully clothed. I said he was clothed, and that's what we're going to say. He had clothes on, and that's how we're going to address that at this point until the investigation is concluded.
Were the cuts on his wrist recent?
They were acute, superficial. Acute is recent.
Was there a personal
superficial what?
No, superficial wounds were not the preliminary cause of death. The preliminary cause of death is asphyxia due to hanging.
And then you have a estimated time as we made that time.
The investigation is ongoing. Unfortunately, we still have to surmise based on things that we're going to look into, validity, rigors, other factors to try to come up with a generalized idea of when he passed.
Lieutenant,
That will be released at the future press conference when the investigation is concluded.
Lieutenant, in interviews with the family, did they indicate any troubling signs from Robin?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
In interviews with the family, did they indicate any troubling signs from Robin?
At this time, the investigation is ongoing. I'm not going to get into the specifics of our interviews and such because we still have more to conduct, and we want to be able to have untainted information from individuals we may speak with versus saying what we already may know from those interviews. 1 second. Dr. Joseph Cohen is the chief forensic pathologist for the Marin County Sheriff's Office.
How many superficial wounds were there?
He said he was found seated. Was there a chair nearby? Was he in a chair or was he on the floor?
That he was not in a chair. He was suspended, as I indicated, from the belt, which was wedged between the door and the door frames, in a seated position, slightly suspended off the ground.
Off the top of the floor.
Lieutenant, has the Sheriff's Department ever been at that home before? For what reason?
At this time, I don't have that information, but to my knowledge, we have not been to the home for previous contact. Hold on 1 second. Over here.
How many superficial wounds were there?
We're not releasing the nature of how many superficial wounds they are, size, dimensions, or anything to that effect, other than saying at this time that they are superficial in nature.
Why was the autopsy conducted?
The autopsy was conducted in Napa County, primarily due to the Marin County Sheriff's Office does not possess a government morgue facility. We have a private contract with a local mortuary who the facilities are up to par with the government morgue, but it is not a government facility. And due to security concerns and the opportunity to ensure that we want to preclude images and other things, what may have occurred in that exam going public, we used a facility that we knew was secure. I've already addressed that.
Superficial wounds were they on his wrist?
As I said, they were on the inside of his left wrist.
The report said he was thin. Do you have what his body weight was?
We're not getting into specific questions like that. Those statements can be asked at the future press conference.
Was there anybody else in the house?
Well, his personal assistant found him, so I'm not sure it's correct. His wife went to sleep at 10:30 p.m. the prior evening.
What is the name of the assistant?
We're not releasing that information at this time.
So, Lieutenant, the only people that you believe were in the home when Mr. Williams died was his wife and himself, correct?
Correct.
The personal assistant arrived that morning.
Correct.
Were the children of the wife in the home at the time?
As this gentleman just asked, the only people we believe at this time to be in the home was Mr. Williams and Mr. Williams' wife.
Was there a note left at the scene?
I've already answered about the note. We're not discussing that at this time.
You said the wife left. When did she return? In the morning.
Mr. Williams' wife returned shortly after Sheriff's Office personnel arrived on scene and Fire Department personnel arrived on scene. She was aware of his passing at a very early time in this incident.
Was it just coincidental that she returned at that time and then she was done?
I'm not going to get into those specifics at this time.
Was it believed
We're going to take about 5 more questions, and then we're going to move on. So number 1 here.
Was it believed that he died sometime between 10:30 and
It's a reasonable summation that he passed between 10:30 p.m. when he was last seen alive and 12 o'clock when the fire department arrived on scene. What we'll be working on is trying to narrow that down if it's possible. Correct.
Can you give a little more detail on the room where he was found?
No, sir. Not at this time. It was inside the home at 95 St. Thomas.
What was he doing when his wife went to bed?
Lieutenant Boyd, you said the investigation continues now. What exactly are you all looking for? Who are you hoping to speak with as we move forward?
We want to, in an investigation that's ongoing, although the preliminary indication right now indicates this is a suicide, we want to be thorough. We want to make sure that we cover all our bases, dot all our I's, cross all our T's to make sure that we're not forgetting anything else, that we're not being presumptive and overlooking something that's critical to the case. So we're going to continue to review individuals who may have information that's pertinent to our case, medical information, medical history. It's a comprehensive standard coroner investigation. Mr. Williams' case is consistent with any investigation that we conduct for any citizen who passes within the boundaries of Marin County. Unfortunately, due to the notoriety of Mr. Williams, that's why all of you are here today.
But you're ruling out foul play.
We will, at the final conclusion of at the final press conference, we will make that final determination. But at this time, our indication is that it's suicide due to asphyxia, due to hanging.
So it's a preliminary.
As I said, it's preliminary.
What happens next with the body?
I'm not going to release that information as to what Mr. Williams may have been doing at 10:30 last night when she went to bed. Yes, she went to bed at approximately 10:30 p.m. She then left the home in the morning, as I indicated, and then she returned to the home once Mr. Williams was determined to be deceased. I've already stated that. It'll be in the written statement.
Yes, any information about the funeral arrangement?
This woman here, no. Funeral arrangements are a decision of the family, and we are not going to comment on what the family's decisions are as to who they're using, how that's going to proceed. What I can tell you is that the remains are no longer at the Napa County Sheriff's Office. And that's a family issue, and we're not at liberty to release that information.
Have you confiscated any of his computers or phones?
Last question. Actually, one question after this. He was in a room in the home. He was in a room in the home at this time. That's all we're going to say. Last question. Suicide by definition is an intentional act, which cannot be an accidental act. Last question over here. The best way to describe his position when we found him, when we examined him, the best way to describe his position is to, in essence, say he was in a seated position, suspended slightly above the ground. What that means is his body is in a position that looks like he's sitting in a chair. Slightly off the ground, suspended from the belt that was wedged between the door and the door frame that was placed around his neck. Okay, that's all we have for today. Any further updates in the interim will be issued to marinsheriff.org on the press page. But when we have final summary discovery to release, that will be through a press conference. We will provide 24 hours notice for that press conference. I will respond to emails. I ask for your patience in responding to those emails. Understand I am looking at them and I will respond to them in
An
time.
estimate as to when that will be? The final?
Several weeks. Toxicology takes a minimum of 2 to 6 weeks. And it would be presumptive of us to release any final findings until we have all of our toxicology studies concluded. Okay, thank you for your time. Thank you. Have a good day.